Hey, what's going on, gamers? Looks like the new year brought some brand new changes to my NES game. Thankfully, I did a bit more than change the year digit. So in this video, I'm going to tell all about what I did. But in case you don't want to listen to me babbling here, you can check the changes by yourself by downloading the ROMs from the itch.io or GitHub sites, whichever you like. The links are in the description. You know, some might say that it's a bad idea to compare yourself or your work to others, but I could not stop myself from checking the contents of CHR ROMs of other NES games. So for those who don't know, it's a memory storage on the cartridge where all the graphics is stored. The thing that particularly impressed me was the sprite tilesets. To be exact, how tightly the sprites were packed. In some cases you could not even tell what is what. Meanwhile, my sprite tilesets looked like they are from a PC game. You could easily see every character and their animation frames. Obviously, because of that, I had a very few different characters. So I was looking at the sprite tileset of the new Ghostbusters 2 by HAL Laboratories, and I noticed that they're stored only a half of their front-facing characters. That means they set those same tiles to both sides of a character, but in one side they add a horizontal flip flag. I was like, wow, how I haven't thought about that. I bet I can do that at least to my main character. Surprisingly, my main character was already symmetrical and a lot of its tiles could be removed. I guess symmetrical things are naturally beautiful to humans. That's why a lot of NES and Famicom games exploited this phenomena to save tiles. So up until recently I used this simple method to update my character sprites. Each character would have a starting tile number in the tileset and a number of rows. Also, all my characters were 2 tiles wide. Having this information, I would calculate each tile number and other data on the fly during every sprite update. To get to the animation frames, I would simply increase the tile number by a particular amount. This technique worked fine, but it would be very difficult to adapt it, so I could, for instance, use only half of the front-facing character tiles. The sprite update routine was already taking a lot of CPU's time, so by adding additional calculations it would become even slower. So perhaps I needed a different approach here. I figured the easiest solution would be to create a bunch of data lists that would contain information about each sprite. This way I could reuse the same sprites easily. Also, it would be easy to specify mirroring options for the sprites where I need them. This should speed up the sprite update routine significantly, since I would no longer be calculating anything. I would just load the stuff from the ROM to the OM. Well, guess what? To describe all the sprites for every frame of every character took quite a lot of space in the ROM. More than I actually expected. I'm sure there's a way to optimize the data, but I did not want to do that right now. Also, it was complicated to get the memory location of every animation frame, since some of the characters did not have attack frames. Some of them were shorter or taller, so it was not possible to simply add some constant number to the sprite index if I want to jump to a certain frame. For that I created a list of pointers that point to each frame of particular character. When this new character sprite update system was finally finished, I realized how much freedom I have now. I can even specify a custom death frame for each NPC. Those were actually hard-coded before. Also, I could put the tiles of character all over the tileset. There was no longer a need to place them in a certain order like before. Of course, there is still a limitation that prevents the characters to be more than 2 tiles wide, but who knows, maybe I will overcome it in the future. The next thing I tackled after I created sprite data lists was the weird behavior of the main character. Previously, if you would attack with a knife, the knife would appear in the character's right hand. But if you would walk slightly to the right and try to attack again, the knife would appear in the left hand. Clearly, I have no clue what I was thinking back then when I made this. Now that I'm using the sprite list for every frame, there was no place for such a weird thing. And I'm really glad that I finally got rid of this odd behavior. Now let's see how much space I managed to free up in my main tile set. So that's how it looked before. And now, boom! See? My struggle was definitely worth it. So at that moment I had more or less 64 tiles available in my tile set. I thought, why not to add some additional frames for the main character when he wears his jacket. Previously it wasn't possible to tell if you're wearing anything at all. To find out you had to look into the equipment section. So for the outfit I sacrificed 18 tiles. Sure, the jacket graphics doesn't look like much, they use the same colors as previous main character sprite, but since this piece of clothing also acts as an armor, it is kinda useful to see when hostile NPCs rip it off of you. Neat, huh? There were still a lot of empty tiles, so why not to add a couple of new prey animals, like the bunnies. I figured it would be interesting to add some animal that's not aggressive until you provoke it, so there would be a certain risk to hunt it. What about a wild boar? I'd say it would be a pretty good candidate. It would have been nice to make the boar wider than just 2 tiles. But even though it seemed that I have a lot of tiles available, I did not have enough for the character that big. The boar attacks are very strong, and if you would fight it you would suffer a lot of damage. But the reward might be worth it. There was this funny glitch that I managed to create accidentally. It turned the boar into a werewolf after you made a single attack. Luckily I found my stupid mistake and managed to fix it. So yeah, now I'm done with the sprites, now it's time to do what I've promised in my last video. And it is possibility to read the letter that you can find in the cave. So I created a new type of items for that. If you pick an item of this type, there would be a read option in the menu. If you would select it, it would open a rectangle filled with text. Of course I could not put something really sophisticated here, but I guess it's still better than dialogues that you can find in some well-known NES titles. I figured these items could be used as some form of tutorials in the future, like the message boxes in the Super Mario world. The only question, how many of these documents I could fit inside of the ROM. So far I just added another letter. You can find it in the storage box. It's not really important or anything, but it might give you a better understanding right away where the owner of this house is. I also tweaked most of the quest dialogues, changed messages a bit, especially those that appear after you deliver an item. So the player would know that it is necessary to return to the person who asked for the item to be delivered. You might also notice that certain maps had been changed a bit. Nothing really special though, I just don't like that the map feels like some kind of a tunnel or a corridor. So I hope my changes added a bit of variety and made the environment more natural. While I was trying to play the game, I've noticed that you can accidentally activate sleep while interacting with the bed that's in the house. As you might know, sleeping might be sometimes undesirable in my game. That's why I decided to add a sleep confirmation dialogue, so it should protect you from an accidental snooze. Another small feature was to actually make use of the select button that previously didn't do anything. Now by pressing select you can cycle through equipable items one by one in your inventory. Unless you would have some tool already equipped and a completely full inventory, in that case this feature would not work. Now I kinda started thinking that it would be nice to show what tool is equipped, but I haven't decided how to do that yet. Also, there was this super annoying bug with the map that happened when you accidentally managed to bump into some animal while walking. Sometimes it seemed like you've been teleported to a next screen, but in most cases the screen would just flicker non-stop. At first it was kinda hard to figure out what is actually causing this bug. My first guess was that maybe some temporary variables were being tainted by the NPC collision. But one night I had a dream where I was told that this bug is caused by a routine that flips name tables when you scroll. It was being activated when it wasn't supposed to. So thanks to this dream, I managed to fix this bug. That was probably the first time when my dreams would be correct about something in real life. Another small issue that wasn't really that noticeable, but for sure it was annoying for me, was the random sprites that would appear in empty intro and outro scenes. Those scenes supposed to be completely devoid of any sprites, but for some reason those sprites somehow managed to sneak in. Luckily now I managed to get them out. So some of you were asking if the game would actually work on the European PAL NES. In theory it should work just fine, but it would be really slow. We can actually see how sluggish it would get right now if we would run the game on Messen and would turn the PAL region option on. So I decided to start doing some changes that would make the game more palatable for the fans of the European NES. For starters, I modified the makefile and defined two FamiStudio configuration constants for the PAL and NTSC regions. Also, my makefile is now ready to build two ROMs. From now on, you can find those two ROMs on itch.io and GitHub. Now if I load the European ROM into Messen, I would instantly notice that the music is no longer slow. Basically I did what a lot of studios used to do for the European market back in the day. For instance like Capcom. The game itself would run slower than the original NTSC version, but at least the music would sound just fine. Unfortunately, I don't have a real PAL NES to test this on, but I tested this on a best next thing, and that's my wooden Chinese Famiclone. The game seems playable, but you should notice that you can see some extra tile rows in the maps that were not visible on the NTSC console. Surely later on I might start doing some changes to speed up the character movement, if it's even possible. So that's all for now. If you're curious what kind of changes I might add next, then make sure you subscribe my channel. So thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye.